Welcome back. In this next dark story, we will be talking about the spirits that would not stay buried. Voodoo's Obeah and the dead roads of the Atlantic. Let's get ready to explore the dark history, demonic, supernatural, and chilling mysteries.
Close your eyes, relax and listen.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Across West Africa, Haiti, New Orleans, and the Caribbean, the scariest stories are not born from Hollywood dolls or cheap curses. They rise from ports where enslaved people were torn from the earth.
Cemeteries where candles still burn after midnight. Sacred forests where spirits are believed to live. And hidden rooms where people whispered names of the dead because saying them too loudly might invite something home.
These traditions are real, ancient, and deeply misunderstood.
Voodoo is a West African and Afro-Haitian spiritual worldview centered on spirits, ancestors, healing, protection, and survival. While Obeah grew across the Caribbean as a feared system of power,
Medicine, resistance,
and supernatural force. But beneath the respectful history lies the nightmare fuel, the possession ceremonies, the graveyard spirits, the poisoned legends, the shadow workers, the sacred snakes, the tomb offerings, and the old belief that some spirits do not simply answer prayers. They follow the bloodline. We'll start off with West African Voodoo, Ouidah, Benin, the city where the spirits breathe. Ouidah is not just a city. It is a threshold Britannica identifies. Ouidah is the spiritual capital of Voodoo and notes its annual January Voodoo festival. But the same place also carries one of the darkest historical wounds on Earth. Ouidah was a major slave trading port, and historians estimate more than 1 million Africans were exported from there before the trade closed in the 1860s. That is the true horror under the soil. Before any tourist sees the rituals, the drums, the white chalk, or the sacred symbols, they are walking through a place where grief became ancestral memory. Imagine the night wind moving through Ouidah's streets, the kind of wind that does not sound like weather, but like a procession of voices trying to find their bodies. The haunting here is not a ghost story invented for entertainment. It is the feeling that the land remembers who was taken, who screamed, who vanished through the door of no return, and who never stopped calling back. Then there is the Python Temple, where snakes are not treated as monsters but revered within Voodoo practice. The Temple of Pythons in Ouidah is described as a place of historical and modern spiritual symbolism, where royal pythons are major totems for Voodoo followers. Local legend says pythons once protected a king hiding from enemies in the forest. To outsiders, it can feel terrifying. Dozens of pale, silent bodies coiled in the dark, eyes open, tongues tasting the air like they are reading sins off your skin. Add the Zangbeto, the night guardians, the strange whirling figures of straw and mystery, and Ouidah becomes a place where the boundary between village, forest, ancestor, and spirit feels dangerously thin. AP has reported that practitioners in Benin believe sacred forests are home to spirits they seek guidance from, and that those forests are shrinking under development pressure.
In horror terms, that is the cursed warning. When people cut down the houses of spirits, something homeless may start walking at night.
Next, the Haitian Voodoo, Haiti. The cemetery that laughs at death. Haitian Voodoo was shaped from West African Vodou and Roman Catholicism among enslaved peoples brought to colonial Saint Domingue. And its unseen world is filled with Elway spirits, mysteries, ancestors, and the recently dead. But the most terrifying doorway in Haitian Vodou folklore is the graveyard. The Geddy spirits are tied to death, dying, cemeteries, mortality, and the passage between worlds. Papa Geddy is associated with death and resurrection, a beloved but chilling ancestral figure who belongs at the edge of the grave. Picture Port-au-Prince at night during Fête Geddy. Candles shaking in wet hands, white powder on skin, drums hitting like a second heartbeat. Crosses rising from the cemetery, and people believed to be possessed by Geddy spirits moving among tombs as if the dead have borrowed the living for one more dance. AP documented Fête Geddy ceremonies at Haiti's national cemetery, including followers honoring Barons Samedi and Geddy, and people believed to be possessed with Geddy spirits. The nightmare deepens with the infamous zombie legend, not the movie monster, but the older Haitian fear of being trapped between life and death. Western cinema twisted this into cheap horror, but researchers have seriously examined Haitian zombification claims, including Wade Davis's investigation into powders and psychoactive substances such as datura. That is what makes it so disturbing. The legend is not just the dead rise. It is worse. It is the fear that a person can be spiritually stolen, buried inside their own body, walking without will, eyes open but soul locked away. In a horror documentary voice, Haiti's darkest supernatural terror is not that death comes. It is that death may refuse to finish its work. The grave opens. The drums begin. The Baron smiles with a mouth full of cemetery dirt. And somewhere in the crowd, a voice that should have died years ago whispers your name. Happening here at home. Louisiana voodoo and hoodoo. New Orleans. Marie Laveau's tomb still gets visitors. New Orleans did not simply inherit voodoo. It turned it into a living, breathing shadow beneath the French Quarter. The New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum says it has served the community since 1972 by preserving the legacy of New Orleans. Voodoo history and culture, including tours connected to Congo Square and Marie Laveau's house. Marie Laveau herself is not just folklore. Britannica describes her as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, associated with healing the sick, helping the poor, and overseeing spiritual rites. But New Orleans is where good intentions and graveyard fear become one black candle. The city sweats at night. Iron balconies drip. The Mississippi moves like something alive. And in the old stories, Laveau never fully left. People do not speak of her like a woman locked in history.
They speak of her like a presence, a queen still listening from behind the walls, still watching from the edge of candlelight. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 is one of the great engines of New Orleans fear. The official cemetery tour describes it as the oldest extant cemetery in New Orleans. Established in 1789, filled with above-ground tombs shaped by the city's climate and history. It also connects the cemetery's lore to the mysterious life and death of Marie Laveau. That means the horror has a real address. The terror is not abstract, it has stone names, locked gates, mausoleums, and offerings left by strangers who believe the dead still negotiate. In the horror version, you enter under a bruised Louisiana sky and hear footsteps that stop when you stop. You see 3 X marks scratched where they should not be. You smell candle wax, though no candle is lit. And then you realize the most frightening thing about Marie Laveau's legend is not that her ghost may walk the French Quarter. It is that people still ask her for favors, and some are afraid she still answers.
And lastly, the Obeah, Jamaica and the Caribbean, the hidden work that colonial masters feared. Obeah may be the most feared name in Caribbean supernatural history because it was never just magic. The early Caribbean Digital Archive describes Obeah as a creolized religious practice, drawing from African religion while reinterpreting Christian elements. And it says Obeah has been understood as a magical art of resistance because it empowered people under colonial oppression. That is where the dark documentary truth begins. Plantation owners feared Obeah not only because they believed it could curse, poison, heal, or protect, but because it gave enslaved people invisible power in a world designed to strip them of everything. In the horror telling, an Obeah worker is not a cartoon villain muttering in smoke. He is the figure waiting at the edge of the cane field after midnight, carrying roots, grave dirt, bottles, prayers, and knowledge that the powerful cannot control. Jamaica's Obeah laws show how deep that fear ran. History Workshop notes that Jamaica's 1898 Obeah Act criminalized being a person practicing Obeah and broadly defined instruments of Obeah as anything claimed to possess occult or supernatural power. ECDA also connects anti-Obeah laws to the post-slavery colonial period, when missionaries and laws help suppress African-derived practices. That is the real scary event, not just a curse, but a whole legal system terrified of invisible resistance. In the old stories, Obeah could bring luck, protection, revenge, sickness, madness, or death. In the darkest version, a charm is buried under a doorstep, a bottle is hung from a tree, a shadow is taken, and the victim does not see the enemy, only the consequences. The body grows cold, the dreams turn black. The same bird lands outside the window every morning. And somewhere, far from the house, someone whispers, "The work has started." Thank you for your support. And thank you for tuning into the darkest horror stories of your life. Some of the stories are based on true events or experiences. Please do us a favor. If you could hit like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Never listen alone, and stay tuned for a new horrors and stories.